Chrollo Lucilfer embodies both Jesus and the devil, and yet at the bottom of his, at first glance, paradoxical view of life and people, there's an incredibly strong and surprisingly unreligious message about power and how it tends to warp good intentions and love into cruelty and inhumanity.
つまらないとラップは使わない。
This makes Chrollo a case study of extremist human behavior, and given all the deep concepts explored in his character, it is no wonder that it's easy to misunderstand what his character is actually about. Is he a higher being with a higher purpose, as his powers and determination suggest, or simply a fanatic that uses his beliefs as justification for his horrendous deeds? Because to me, belonging to the trinity of godly villains that Togashi has created, each of them explores a different aspect of power and evil. As you'll remember from his video, 𝚙𝚎 is an exploration of hedonism and sociopathy. 𝚙𝚘 deconstructs the idea that humanity is special, as well as the dark implications of pride and arrogance.
この世の頂点にある。他の脆弱な強さなど、世の前では何の意味もなさぬ。
And pretty effortlessly continuing that pattern, I think that Chrollo explores the themes of power and evil from a very unique perspective as well. Religion, or to be more precise, the belief into a higher purpose. To me, Chrollo highlights both the best and the worst in religious practice and belief. In a story exploring human morality with Chrollo, Togashi makes the most direct statement as to what it means to be morally good or bad. And no matter if you're Christian or not, or actually religious or not, understanding Chrollo will show you why you love 𝚙𝚘 𝚙𝚘 so damn much. Because as you'll find out, I'm a bit of a fan myself. Now, one thing I noticed quickly after getting more and more into anime was that religious themes are not exactly a rarity in the genre, and given Japan's own culture, it's no big surprise that especially Zen Buddhism and Shintoism are part of many popular stories. 𝚙𝚘 𝚙𝚘 is no exception to this rule, only that as usual, I believe it deals with the associated ideas and concepts on a much more fundamental, and at least for me, much more interesting level. However, with Chrollo, it also explores a religion that I rarely see integrated into other stories, at least on such a level of understanding: Christianity. You definitely already know all the obvious connections that associated with Chrollo. There is the reverse cross tattooed in perfect Post Malone fashion on his forehead that is also stitched on the back of his robe. This reverse cross is both associated with Saint Peter, but also the Antichrist, also known as the Devil, or Lucifer, which who would have thought is just one letter short of Chrollo's last name. The Phantom Troop, that as we will see is a big part of Chrollo's identity, consists of 13 members, just as Jesus and his 12 apostles, with 𝚙𝚎 representing Judas and his betrayal.
いや、そんな奴は。それに俺の考えじゃ、ユダは裏切り者じゃない。
And just like Jesus, Chrollo sees himself on a divine mission, even though he doesn't seem to know what exactly that mission is. And even if he knew at some point, he seems to have forgotten it by now. Now, right from the start, being willing to sacrifice himself for his followers and taking no real interest in worldly possessions, he didn't really follow my expectations of a typical bad guy, but at the same time clearly does some horrendous things. Holy fuck, it's warm. And for me, it was this atmosphere of higher purpose and moral ambiguity that give Chrollo his undeniably intriguing and mysterious presence. So it's fair to say, I believe, that the religious hints here aren't exactly subtle. The point, however, I think is, because in some ways Togashi portrays Chrollo as Christ, and in others as the Antichrist. He can both value the lives of his comrades, but at the same time slaughter wholesale betrayal without the blink of an eye. So let's talk about the deep message behind Chrollo's character. Now, we don't really know much about Chrollo's childhood and why he relies so incredibly much on fate. All we really know is that he's from Meteor City, which has a lot of mystery built up around it and which we know is a place where people throw other people away. A place so dark and terrible that some don't even believe it exists. Now, even for me, it's not so hard from a psychological lens to see why someone who grew up in such an environment would tell themselves that fate governs everything and at the same time look for a higher purpose in life. Growing up in a world of suffering and pain, this can be a real source of hope and stability. All the things you're going through have a reason, and all the morally questionable things you have to do in order to survive are not your fault, but part of a greater plan. And in this darkest of places, Chrollo forms the Spiders, a sort of family that shares his beliefs and is a community of people who care for, protect, and respect each other. A real chance to cast aside all their pain and hardship.
安心しな。今日中に退治してやるよ。
And so the group and its cause becomes everyone's purpose. I'm sure no matter if you go to a service or not, this is a concept you'll probably recognize from religion. In fact, it's arguably the most important part for many believers. Having a community of people who share your beliefs and help you through times of darkness and hardship. It's also no surprise then that Chrollo is so obsessed with Neon's ability to predict one's fate. Seeking her out was the only time he ever diverted his attention from their mission in York New City.
もしそういう表現があったなら、慰められるのはレイじゃなく、あなたの方だと思う。
Chrollo's belief that everything is predetermined by fate leads to his Jesus-like ability to forgive and accept as well. Most strikingly, he doesn't see Judas, in other words Hisoka, as a traitor once he starts hunting down members of the troop and even himself, because Hisoka has, in his eyes, no control over his own life. It has all been written beforehand. Hisoka is basically just playing his role. So why in the world would Chrollo hate him if it's not his fault in the first place? And of course, forgiveness and acceptance are universally important concepts that are taught by many religions. So up to this point in my mind, Chrollo embodies some of the best things about faith. Finding an altruistic purpose in life, giving that purpose to others like him, forming a caring community looking for a better life, and being forgiving to others. The Jesus side of Chrollo.
This is the Messiah, the chosen one! No, he's not!
But given all that, there is no denying that this is the person we're talking about here.
なぜ俺はまだ生きてるんだ
Chrollo is one of the major antagonists in the story, even though interestingly enough, he only touches with our main characters very scarcely. In fact, Kurapika and Hisoka are the only characters whose arcs are deeply involved with Chrollo, which is of course intriguing, because Hisoka is himself a major antagonistic force. And be honest, I know you love two great villains fighting each other just as much as I do.
ずーっと待ってたよこの時をさあやろう
Even though they both fall on the murderous lunatic end of the chart, they vary quite a bit in their motivations and values. Chrollo and Hisoka are Jesus and Judas. Unshakable stability versus deliberate chaos. No value to a single human life, so I might as well kill them, versus human life is the only thing that gives my actions value, so I might as well kill them. After all, Hisoka is the embodiment of lust, one of the 7 deadly sins.
そんな目で見つめないでよ興奮しちゃうじゃないか
And if Hisoka is lust, Chrollo is greed. Now, he likes to give off the appearance of the selfless leader that doesn't need anything, and yet he is greedy beyond limits. He wants the money, he wants vast knowledge, he wants all the worldly things. Chrollo was a man with nothing who now wants everything. Someone so obsessed with human nature to the point where he will use his obsession to manipulate another person to get what he wants from them. He instilled himself to read books and observe the people around him, even using these books to pick certain personality traits for himself that he finds suitable. Most telling, however, is of course though his nen. As we all know, nen usually reflects the user's personality really well, and I was shocked to find out that Chrollo has the greediest nen ability of them all, stealing other people's powers. What turns Chrollo's good intentions and beliefs against themselves is his complete and unquestioning faith in them. Chrollo is convinced that everything is predetermined. Everyone has their fixed role to play, and thus it doesn't really matter what he or anyone does, since it's fate guiding his hand anyway.
占いが得意なんだってね。どれくらい当たるの？
𝚙𝚘𝚗𝚒𝚅なんだって。
Fully subscribing to his beliefs, as you should be to my videos, means that to Chrollo, humans are nothing but puppets. And he uses this belief as a justification for all the atrocities he commits. And since he has incredible power, he sees himself in the privileged position above other humans, chosen by fate to fulfill the most special of roles. He thinks he's Jesus. Now, interestingly enough, what Chrollo really wants, just like Hisoka and Meruem, is fill the hole in their hearts, the deep, dark emptiness within them that threatens to drown them. Hisoka fills this with kicks, looking for things that make him feel excited and alive by risking his own life and making other people feel like shit as well. Again, more on that in his video.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Meruem actually meets Komugi, overcomes his pride, and manages to fill this hole before dying. And Chrollo clings to his destined role in the world and the belief that everything he does has a higher purpose. That there is a reason for all the pain and suffering in the world, and carrying out his role, he will be the savior of all.
He is the Messiah!
Now, the Phantom Troop means so much to Chrollo because these people are all that really matters to him on a human level. They are his true family and purpose. But even though he acknowledges this himself, he still tries to push himself away from others and cast his human side away. Instead of embracing his humanity and be vulnerable, he tries to make himself something more. And I think that this approach to life represents the darkest side of religion and other doctrines in general. When you follow a belief so radically and without question that you lose sight of the original good intent. It's a striking critique by Togashi of all the violence that has been committed in the name of gods and states and political systems throughout history. Basically, seeing oneself above others and believing oneself to be the only one that truly understands how the world works. Or, borrowing from another popular franchise, doing it for the greater good.
一つ聞きたいことがあるんだけど、なぜ自分たちと関わりのない人間を殺せるの？
I'm sure you already know in your gut why Chrollo and extremist beliefs in any doctrine are problematic, but let me tell you anyway. It is objectively immoral. It's immoral to murder in the name of a higher purpose or the belief that all is predetermined. Hunter x Hunter is famous for exploring morality through characters that feel real because they are morally gray. However, I think it would be a grave misconception to think that Hunter x Hunter believes that there is no such thing as morality. In fact, the opposite is true. What Togashi shows through the actions of all his characters is that there is many ways to act good or badly even within a character. But in the end, what determines a moral action is how it affects human well-being. You might have heard the famous phrase, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. What this sentence really means is that we all have no way to tell what is actually real. The world might be a simulation. You could just be a brain in a jar, or like Chrollo thinks, everything is guided by God or by fate. We just don't know. The only thing you can be sure of in this moment right now is that it feels like something to be you. The fact that you are experiencing something right now is the only thing you know really exists. And so whether you suffer right now or not is the only thing that really matters. Human well-being is what matters. The well-being of all conscious creatures is what matters, even if we had no control over our lives. And so treating humans as puppets and killing them for a higher purpose goes against the highest purpose there is, an objective morality. And the fact that we had to go this deep to solve why he's evil is why Chrollo is one of my favorite villains ever. However, to really understand how Togashi sees evil, you'll need to watch my video on Hisoka here as well.